Hello, how are you?
Okay.
Say welcome to, to the general meeting. I don't think we have the actual microphone.
Can you see me?
No, this is, oh. Well, this is supposed to be for the Zoom meeting, but the actual microphone is not hooked up. That's fine. So let's start with the call to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We don't really have a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, and now if you want to look at the minutes from the last meeting. No, we don't have a mic. It's for the Zoom, yeah. So during the last meeting, we had Kevin Shelley spoke about open burning. Linda Jones announced that the EPD was to have a partnership meeting earlier this month. We had Michelle Christian with the Complete Streets campaign and the Evansville Trails. Zach Hieronymus with the Evansville City Council was here. We talked about resparking the neighborhoods. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve these minutes? Okay. Okay, Judy made a motion, Leonard seconded. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Now we have the treasure. Oh, Linda, I think you were supposed to do the approval of minutes. I'm sorry. Okay. The treasurer report is by Judy Kurth. Okay, thank you, Judy. We're going to skip over the senior vice president report. Is Kevin Shelley here with the Evansville Fire Department? Okay. Linda Jones, do you have an EPD report? Okay, Centennial Center of the Rescue Mission from 7 to 9 a.m. on what day? October 6th is Coffee with Cop. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Assistant Police Chief Phil Smith. It's coming right up. You have to hold it like this.
All right, thank you so much.
Audience on Zoom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Do I need to stand right here so Zoom World can see me? I got a big range. Hello in Zoom World.
Hi.
Well, thank you all for having me. Joe Ballard had reached out. Actually, we bumped into each other while I was attending a Big Brothers Big Sisters meeting. He's held in the same offices there, and I'm a board member. And as I walked by, he recognized me. He asked me to come in, and he says, "Hey, I want you to come out October." Not October. What? September 23rd. He said this is back in January, was it not? it was very early in the year, and I said I'll be there. And Joe sent another email, said, "Hey, don't forget." Then Joe sent another email, said, "Don't forget." And he sent like 5 more, and so, and but you know, you have to do that, and I'm so glad that Joe did, because the schedule gets so busy, things get lost in the email world and all that thing and all those things. So thank you, Joe, for staying on top of me and making sure I'm being here. Thank you, Linda, for inviting everyone to Coffee with the Cop. I hope several of you can make it. That's the National Coffee with the Cop. We always look forward to those events, and this is the first one that I know of that we've had at an actual homeless shelter. So that's pretty awesome that we can go and try to meet people where they are, which is one of our biggest community policing outreach initiatives and efforts. I'm going to talk about several of the efforts and initiatives. I don't really have I guess a template of what I wanted to discuss tonight. Joe sent an email saying that he wanted to discuss some crime around the city, and as well, I thought I'd let you know about some of our community policing initiatives, and just basically have a conversation, because you guys are the United Neighborhoods of Evansville. All law enforcement patrol those neighborhoods. We're a part of this community. We need to be a part of all these community conversations. There's roughly 120,000 citizens in Evansville. We have 200 something officers. It's not a good chance. It's not a good chance that we're going to meet everyone. So this is a good opportunity to actually get out of the car and meet some folks that I don't normally get to see and meet. So I brought a couple documents with me to discuss some crime stats, as well as some of the community policing initiatives. And I'll just jump right into it. I'm one of those speakers that likes to kind of start with the downright ugly truth, and then, end on a positive note. It's no secret, if you cut on the news, that we're seeing gun violence. You cut every other night, it's somebody shot up somewhere. It's to the point now where people just like, oh, who got shot at this time? And I know there's a lot of frustration about, well, why aren't some of these people being caught? Why aren't you arresting some of these people? Why are some of these people going to jail and then getting back out? I mean, there's a lot of questions involved, and there's only so much that a police department can do without the help of others. I know there's a such thing as the CSI effect, where people believe that you should be able to solve a crime no matter what. And sometimes that's simply not the case. So I have some numbers that are, quite frankly, disturbing in a lot of cases. Year to date, we have 9 homicides. These are 9 deaths that we have. When I first got on, I believe the average was about like 7 per year, and it seems like we've kind of grown on that since 2015. I got on 2013; it was about 7 per year, which for our population was not a lot. 2017, we had the most we've ever had. Those numbers have kind of gone down. That 2017 was like, we never want to relive that again. And what we're seeing is a lot of young men on young men violence is what we're seeing in a lot of cases. Of this year's 9 deaths, we've had 45 shootings to date. And of those 45, 16 of those, we've had 0 operation. That's nobody saying. I think a lot of that gets lost on people, is that part of our job is talking to witnesses and getting witness testimony. That's a big part of our job. If a sound goes off in that closet right there, and then I open the door and then nobody wants to tell me what goes on, nobody's in that door, it's like I'm left to figure out something from scratch. And a scene only can tell you so much with evidence. There's only so much that disturbed dirt or a bullet casing can tell you. We need that firearm in which the gun came from. We need somebody to place somebody with a description there. We need to know if this person had arguments or beefs with somebody before we arrived there. And a lot of times we don't get that. We've had 15 stabbings this year. One of those deaths of the 9 has been ruled as accidental. 2 of those are self-inflicted. 4 of those 9 are suicide, and 1 is considered a self-defense, and another is considered other. I think the most recent one that was in the news was the self-defense that a lot of people saw, and they wonder what goes into self-defense. And basically, if you fear for your life or the life of someone else, you do have a right in the state of Indiana to defend yourself and defend the safety of others in those events. One of the things I'm gonna talk about that's gonna hit close to home to me, that's disturbing, and I'm not gonna make this a race thing, but a lot of what we're seeing in our victims and our suspects, they look like me. And that's very disturbing for me. And I don't know how to fix that. That's where I need that's where I need you guys. That's where I need your help. You go inside I see Reverend Brown, he's gone inside the prisons forever. I guarantee Reverend Brown's seen a lot more people that look like me in those prisons than others. And we have to find a way to save our young men and women in our community. Of the victims that we've had, 20 of them have been male white, 20 of those have been male white victims. These are victims of violent crime. 40 of them have been black males. 3 white women and 3 black women. Those are the victims of violent crime. The suspects we've had, mostly, this is a male-dominated young male in a lot of cases. The most in those instances where we have suspect information, we've had 12 white males, 28 black males, 2 white females, and 3 black females. So you see the overwhelming majority is going to be male. And the majority, almost double, is going to be African-American males. And we see a lot of those things towards the end of the week, the weekend. Of course, our Saturdays and into Sunday, early Sunday mornings, we see a lot of those violent crimes that occur. I want to talk about guns, gun violence. All these statistics I'm talking to you guys about are from this year alone. We're in September, so I have all my statistics up to August, and it'll kind of show you that when we get to the warmer months, you start seeing increase in the guns that we've recovered. These are guns that we've taken off the street, off the quote unquote bad guys or people that don't belong having guns. In January, we got 33 guns off the street. That's a lot of guns to recover. In February, we got 43. In March, what happens? Starts warming up a little bit. We got 53 guns off the street. So the men and women that work for the Evansville Police Department, sometimes we get bashed because we're not a perfect agency, but they're out there working their tails off and they're dealing with some bad things at times. I mean, how many of us in this room have taken guns off people? Let alone 53 in a month. I mean, so they're out here doing the work. And if you look at television, they would have you believe we're just stopping people and picking on them for no reason. You ain't just taking 53 guns off people accidentally. You know, there's a real issue sometimes. 36 in April, 52 in May, 42 in June, 45 in July, 48 in August. Don't yet have September's numbers because we're still here in September, but that's 352 guns we've taken off the street. On average, if that's a year, that's almost a gun per day that we're taking off the streets. So the men and women are actually, we're saving lives by sitting out here and being proactive, making car stops, taking tips. A lot of you all work with your crime prevention officers. You call in tips. We follow up on these tips and we watch these areas that are our most saturated with crime areas, and our officers respond. So those are a couple of things I want to talk about as far as gun violence. Before I came here, I talked to CPO unit. They gave me some statistics and some tips that would kind of help with some of the other crime that we have. We've seen something called the this is an out-of-town group that we've seen pop up in the last 4 to 5 months called the Felony Lane Gang. And these are out-of-town people. They're not Evansville people. And what they do is they target vehicles. They target vehicles where you can see things left out in plain view, like your purses, wallets, things like that. And typically when someone breaks into a vehicle, it's a crime of opportunity. They're checking for something that's going to be unlocked, something easy, something in the darkness. Well, with this Felony Gang Lane, we've seen a couple things in the daytime. We've seen them break out stuff at a couple businesses. They'll walk by, see a purse in a car, broad daylight, they're in a rental car from out of state. They'll bust out a window, hurry up and grab the purse, hit the highway, and they're gone. So we've seen that. So we're trying to make sure that we're in areas to where we can circumvent those types of things. things that citizens can do to save themselves from that is please don't leave personal belongings outside just in plain view of your car. You have wallets, purses, handguns is a big thing. People, I don't know what it is about people with handguns and leaving their cars unlocked and their handguns in plain view, but those are things that it's a bad day if somebody gets a hold of those things. So that's something that you can do to protect yourself. Another thing that we see is, and this is more prevalent in the older community, it happens to my mom all the time, she calls me, is these scammers that are calling us and trying to get information from us. And my mom, and I'm using my mom for an example, she's in her mid 60s, almost 70. She don't understand, she don't know who's legit and who's not. These scammers have gotten good with what they're asking you and telling you that they'll call your phone number and they'll say, hey, you're in violation of this. We need some information. And they're scaring some of these folks, and they're scaring them to giving them information that they shouldn't be given. We just got a report of a elderly person as recent as this week, giving up almost $100,000 of their money to somebody that they don't know on the other end of the phone. Never met this person, but they've scared them into it. Sometimes we get to jury duty scams and all these things. Well, you can get out of jury duty if you send us some money. So if there's ever a question about this person calling you, let me tell you right now, there's not a law enforcement agency that I know of that calls you and tells you, hey, we're coming to get you. I've never made one phone call to tell somebody, hey, you got a warrant, but you can get rid of this warrant if you pay me. I've never done that. No law enforcement agency does that. I think you got to. Yes, it starts with a phone call.
And it's, and it started kind of bothering me, thinking that, hey, this was not, just the ordinary, what you don't donate money, he was checking to see if I was there.
Yeah. Well, so now they know you'll pick up, so they'll continue to call, and they'll call from different numbers. How many of you gotten the car scam number? Your car's under warranty or out of warranty. We can get. I even get those, and I'm like, really? I was like, have you seen my car? I got so many dits and dings in it. Like, come get it then. But yeah. So things. If you ever have a question of if someone is legit, you can contact the Better Business Bureau about that business. You can look that business up online and call a customer service number and see if these businesses are illegitimate. You can also Google that business and scams related to it. Is this number a scam? You can Google that phone number, and a lot of those numbers pop up as scam numbers. So contact your police department if you ever have those. A lot of those people are hard to track down because they're doing it from other countries, and so it's not a domestic sort of thing going on. It's people from other countries calling, and they got these things down packed. They've been on enough automated messages themselves to where they know that what the people call for, the quote bill collectors call and ask for. So those are a couple of things that you can do to protect yourself. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Because I did it one time, and when you call it, let them know that they'll track that number, and usually they won't call you back.
Yeah, you can contact the Federal Trade Commission. Absolutely. What's your name? Vera. Thank you. That's very good advice. If you didn't hear, you can contact the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and they can give you some information that'll help you. Locally, more recently, we didn't see as much crime last year for the obvious reason that a lot of people were inside the home because of COVID. Case in point, a lot of you have masks on in here right now. So we didn't see as much, but I tell you one thing that we saw as a police department, which is very unique. Myself and Chief Bowen go around the country teaching Coffee with a Cop. We're national instructors. One thing that we saw is every day during the pandemic, almost every day, I was at the time, I was the special projects coordinator and coordinating things with businesses and police department outreach. I don't know how many just local people, businesses reached out to make sure that our police department was fed on a daily basis. because we were I guess quote essential personnel. We didn't get to go in the house. We had to be out there in it, and you know it was so much uncertainty. And you guys as a community took such good care of us, and I think it's about it. One speaks to who you are as people, who we are as a community. It also speaks to the professionalism of the men and women of the Evansville Police Department, that people want to do something for them. We saw rampant protests. We saw riots in some cases, in the worst cases. We saw some peaceful protests here in Evansville. We had some of those protests. It's not something to be happy about, because people want to protest. That means they have a grievance and they want to be heard, and you should give them that opportunity to be heard. But when you look at the numbers of the folks that came and made protests in Evansville, we had in Bloomington, they had like over 2,000 people protesting. In Henderson, they had like 500. In Louisville, thousands. Our top number of protests here didn't reach 350. We're double the size of Bloomington, double the size of Henderson. So why is that? Why didn't we get as many people filing grievances with us as some of our neighbors? And I think, I don't know the answer to that, but I do think it's part of the community policing that we do, the accessibility, the wanting to get out and make things better. Are we perfect? We are not perfect, but we try. This community center right here, the Dust Bowl is held here. We're partners in the Dust Bowl.
One of those protests, the mayor was right with us.
The mayor was. It was hot today too. I was out there, and I want to talk. This is a document that we've compiled, and this document was a sheet long. And in this document, we discuss a lot of the community policing initiatives that we have. The cover is a letter from Chief Bowen. If you like, I'd like to share this with you if you let me. Community policing in Evansville dates back to the fall of 1968, when Chief James Lane started a pilot police community relations program, which led to us being the first police department in the state of Indiana to have a community relations program. So as far as 68, we've tried. Not perfectly, but we've tried something. Somebody had the vision. It only took one person. So Chief James Lane, way back when, knew that, hey, you can't arrest your way out of this thing. You can't pull cars over out of this thing. Somebody's got to say, hey, I'm Phil. I'm a police officer, but what can I do to make this better? Somebody's got to do that. I'm proud to say the concept of community policing has evolved over the years and is no longer something that we do. It's who we are. Community policing requires individual officers, regardless of position or rank, to work closely with citizens, neighborhood associations, businesses, organizations, and other stakeholders to identify and resolve issues together.
You've been muted. We can't hear anything.
I got dispatched to this area. What we see sometimes when people get upset with us is they think that we see folks and just shake them down. And those are going to be what we call the self-initiated activity, which we don't get a lot of. Self-initiated is when the officer is out there and he sees something, want to address, just don't. We patrol neighborhoods daily. So we know when something's out of place. We know when something doesn't look right, like that just don't look right. Something that hand-to-hand transaction or whatever, or that bulge just poking out of that t-shirt. It's like, that looks like a gun right there. Okay, maybe we need to stop and check that out. But if you stop somebody and you find out that bulge is a piece of Bubblicious gum package or something, and then that interaction could be, it should be respectful, number one. And two, it should be explained. We should explain what we're doing. And hey, this is why I stopped you. That right there, what's the saying that I'm looking for? Brother preacher, help me. A kind word turns away wrath. Isn't that right? So if we, the police department, can do that, then we can make those situations, even when someone's being investigated for something that they didn't do, and we find out they didn't do it. If we're gentlemen or if we're ladies about it, then that interaction shouldn't be as bad as it could be. I'm gonna continue. We arrest sons, daughters, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, friends, and etc. We sometimes have to change our tone with people and use force on them. And sometimes we may be forced to use deadly force. Conversely, sometimes we may think we know who committed a crime and have circumstantial evidence pointing that direction. But without probable cause, we can't make an arrest. This sometimes angers victims and family members of victims family members of victims who don't think we care, which isn't the case. I took 2 phone calls. And I do this all the time, so I know I'm reading it from this when I stop and talk, because sometimes things remind me of things. So the other day I get home. On my way home, I get a phone call, and it's a phone call of a victim of a murder victim. It's the mother of a person that was murdered 9 years ago. It don't matter, it was 9 years ago. That's her baby. That crime ain't solved yet. Her grievance was that we don't call her enough. And I sat there and I took a lashing. I just became assistant chief in January, so I wasn't even on the department 9 years ago. But you know what? You don't say that. You sit there and you let her voice her concerns. You listen to her, and then you said, "Yes, ma'am, we will fix it." And then you get right on the phone, you call that detective that's on that case, and you say, "Fix this." I don't care if you don't have any information. I don't care if you have some information. You call and let them know, "Hey, I don't have nothing, but I'm working still." Because that's a grieving mother, that's a grieving parent, that's a grieving family member. Doing little things like that can help. It can help ease, just put somebody at ease, like, hey, my baby ain't forgotten. Nobody wants their person forgotten. So that's something that we do. Everybody matters. Every call we get, it may seem mundane, as far as like the elves get knocked over or stolen that their grandmama gave them. It could seem mundane to somebody, but to them, that's the worst day, because that means something to them. And we teach our officers and we tell our officers, remember that. Because when everybody sits in front of us to take that interview for the first time, want to be a police officer, that's what they say. I want to help the community. That's why I'm signing up for this job. Don't lose, I tell them all the time, don't lose that person at first interview. Keep being that person. I don't care how much you see, and there's a possibility you can get jaded in this business. Don't forget that person that sat in that interview table. It is important for you to know these things. It is important for you to know these things for you to understand. No, Chief Owen wrote this. I don't know what. To understand it. Oh my! Is this ain't going out nowhere? He might see this recording. I didn't write this. Oh my goodness! Don't shut it. Edit that part out. It's important for you to understand that even community police officers will cause people to dislike us just because we've done our job that we've been taught to. I'm in no way implying that we don't make mistakes, because we do. The addition of body-worn cameras has helped us to improve the quality of service we provide to the public. It is important for police agencies to share these videos when controversial events happen, regardless of whether the officer's actions look good or not. You have my commitment that we will always be transparent and share these videos when we legally can. I would like to share some statistical data and provide examples of many non-enforcement engagements our officers have with the public. Our goal is to have a true partnership with our community. And if you have any ideas how we can further this mission, please let us know. And that's from Chief Bowman. And I can't think of an agency that puts out body cam footage as much as we do. I mean, a time there, it was almost weekly. It was some kind of body cam coming out. They're like, hey, this is what happened. If we got complaints about it, if it went to Facebook media to somebody, the police done us wrong, hey, Philip, look into that. And yeah, yes, sir, look into it. Get the body cameras, get it up. Don't be transparent. You can't say that you're a community police department and you're not transparent. You can't say that you work for the people and you're not willing to show the people what you do. So that's a reason why we release so much body cam. We've seen a change in law enforcement, not only here in Evansville, but across the country. We don't get as many applicants as we used to. We're currently 17 officers below where we should be. 289 is where we're supposed to be, so we're 17 down. We lost 34 officers to date this year alone due to retirements, 22 to resignations, 9 to terminations, and we lost 1 to a disability pension. On our patrol staffing, like I told you, there's 120,000 citizens in Evansville. It's not likely that all of you will meet a police officer unless 1, you've been a victim of a crime, 2, you've committed that crime, or 3, you've been in an accident. Those are the only times you meet us, or a ticket, Leonard. So with those numbers, you think 120,000 people, not everybody's awake at the same time, people are working, but on your first shift, if you're in Evansville, how many officers you think are working the street? Somebody take a guess. Anybody, a minimum. I said you had 120,000 people in the city, right? Day shift. How many officers do you think we need to have minimally to patrol day shift on the street? We had a minimum of 18 officers to work the street during, it may sound like a lot. 18 officers may sound like a lot. 120,000 people, residents. Second shift, one of our busier shifts, we up it a little bit, but there's still 25 officers, just a minimum of 25. It's 25 and there's 2 sergeants. It's 2 sergeants on every shift that I'm mentioning. Third shift, a minimum of 17 officers. So at nighttime when you get a lot of these gun violence events that occur. We had, last year alone, we had 134,130 calls for service. That goes across the gamut. That's anything from shots fired to bank robbery to my neighbors blowing grass in my yard. I mean, we get them all and we go to them all.
Could you give us a breakdown of the calls?
So basically, we have them priority 1 through 4. Priority 1, for example, is going to be something that's dangerous, shots fired, domestic violence in progress, anything that's violent where somebody can be a victim of serious bodily injury or something like that. Priority 2 is where it's not quite gotten to a 1. That could be a fight in progress, something like that, where you need to get there. But priority 1 is going to be lights and sirens, things like that. Priority 3 is going to be maybe a disturbance at a school, something like that. Priority 4 is going to be that neighborhood dispute, that somebody blowing grass in my yard or a vehicle check, something like that. So if there's a chance that somebody can be hurt, it ups the ante on where we go. We only drive lights and sirens to those priority 1 runs. A big thing that we've battled internally with our guys, because our cops want to get out there and they want to fight crime. That's what they want to do. That's what they signed up to do. In our profession, one of the most dangerous things we do is driving. We've cracked down a lot on our pursuit policy. If our policy, if the risk to catch this person out, if it outweighs the risk to the public, that's the only time we're chasing them. So if this is a murder suspect, then yes, we're chasing them. But if this somebody has a shoplifting warrant and it's 7, 8 o'clock in the morning when school buses are going, we can catch this person later. Do we really have to go lights and sirens and drive 60, 70 miles down the road to catch this person that just shoplifted? How dangerous is that to you or your family? Would you want your family getting hit by a police officer and then they saying, oh, they ran with a warrant? That ain't gonna bring back anybody that you hit on the way. So we've cracked down a ton on our pursuits. And in the beginning, we got a lot of blowback from some of our younger guys because they're eager to get out there and go. We did get some blowback on that, but as you see, you show them example after example around the country of people getting hurt in these pursuits, deputies getting hurt, officers getting hurt. Guys, we're doing this to protect you protect you, one, from being hurt yourself, protect you from hurting someone else, protect you from getting sued, losing everything you got. So there's a lot of reasons to make sure that we're doing things better. And if we know who this person is, the recidivism of people that commit crimes is pretty high. We can catch them again. We'll catch them because they're not going to stop. A lot of these folks, it ain't going to be, if that's their first time stealing something and then running up and down the highway, no, that ain't their first time. We'll bump into them again. So is it safe for our citizens? Is it safe for our officer? And if it's not, then we're not chasing. Unless we just have to get this person off the street. I can think of a time when we had a murder suspect. This person has since been convicted of murder, 2 murders, convicted of one of them, but committed 2, got off on 1. But that was a dude that we chased. And it was a dangerous chase, but we got a murderer off the streets. And to my knowledge, this person has since been in prison and committed murder. So this is not somebody we want in our community. That's the person we're going to chase. Talk to you about the body cam. Before body cam, a complaint is he said, she said. Your officer did this. Well, we really can't see this. We can't prove that he was right or she was right or wrong. We can't prove that the citizen was right or wrong back in the day. Now that we got body cams, that's kind of changed a lot of that. So last year we had 26 complaints filed against our officers with internal affairs. 0.1% of our dispatch encounters with the public resulted in a complaint. So of that 134,000 numbers that I gave you, 26 complaints on our officers. That means that they do the job the right way. We had 303 law enforcement acts with, that resulted in physical arrest. So that's 5,000 physical arrests, 7,000 written citations. 356 of those 5,296 arrests came out in the use of force. A use of force we document, that's when you have to use force to effect arrest. And the word force can kind of get you in your system. Like, what do you mean force? Well, if I grab you and take you to the ground and get you handcuffed, we document that as a use of force. It's also a use of force if you hit somebody with a hard, empty hand, a fist. It's a use of force. So we document if we're grabbing them and taking them to the ground. We're documenting if we hit them. We're documenting if we tase them. Whatever we got to do, if we got to put hands on somebody and we think if you think it's force, you better do a report on it. And of all those encounters, 2.8% of all of our 2.8% of all of our enforcement actions resulted in a use of force, and 0.26% of all our dispatched encounters resulted in the use of force. Those numbers alone show that our people aren't just showing up and beating people up. We have non-enforcement engagements with the community, just like this, like me talking with you guys. This is going to be our non-enforcement, but we're talking to the community. These are going to be things like our Citizens Academy. How many of you have ever participated in a Citizens Academy? Wonderful. Who's not participated in a Citizens Academy? Why have you not participated in a Citizens Academy? Of the people who have not participated in a Citizens Academy, how many of you have ever asked a question? Why do police do that? Anybody? Has anybody ever asked that question if you've not participated in a Citizens Academy? Because if you have, you need to go to a Citizens Academy, because we'll show you why we did that. We'll show you through teaching. We'll show you through scenarios, and we'll put you through it, and you will leave with a better understanding of why the police do that. Yeah, simulator. That is something to see. Yeah.
I shot a guy in the leg.
I remember. I was there that night. I remember when you shot a guy in the leg. He sure did shoot somebody in the leg. Leonard, why'd you shoot him in the leg? Well, because he was coming at me. That's why Leonard shot him in the leg. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Let's use that as an example. City of Chicago, they've got 32,000 police officers. They got 100,000 gangs. All of them got that. Do you you as assistant chief of police, when you roll calls and talking to the guys, you get the terminology, there goes in Chicago, and you got people coming in doing different things. How much is that weight on the mind of police officers not wanting to see Evansville be in that situation? Because gang members do have guns. They came out to Chicago, they come across. I think it's the same sort of idea. That becomes almost like the east. And it starts off small. And I think that's what we're seeing here, because it's becoming an everyday issue.
That's a very good question and a couple good statements in there. We don't hear in our roll calls that Evansville's turned into a Chicago, but we do hear some of our citizens say that. And quite frankly, it's upsetting because as an officer, it makes you feel, and I hate that we view Chicago like that, but as a police officer, it makes you feel like, I mean, it's kind of like a punch to the gut. Like, not that we run the city and should be like, this is our city, we control it, not in that sense, but you don't want to see your city come to that. But we've seen a spike in violent crime, not only here, but around the nation. And I don't know what that trend is about. But it is something that's on our mind. It is a discussion that we do have as far as telling our guys, be careful, because now these guys that are toting guns, it ain't like back in the day when people were fighting and it may have been one dude with a gun. I mean, you're dealing with 14, 15-year-olds with guns now. And you're also combating the narrative that the police are violent. So in order to do your job to stop these folks, you got this officer in the back of his mind, like, I need to stop this dude because I think he's got a gun, but I don't know who filming this who's gonna say that I'm a bad guy picking on this dude and saying that I'm racist or whatever. So it's almost like if you do your job, you're getting attacked for it. So you have to combat that also.
And I have one other thing.
Yes, sir.
Thing that bothers me, not only the guns, not only are they willing to use them, but the young men that I talk to, the scary thing that nobody wants.
No.
That's a big difference for them. When a young man doesn't have it in the course, or he shot the house, or he shot up somebody, he'll take it to his face, I will do it again. That's scary.
I agree.
Nobody is safe.
Who's ever heard of the scared straight? Scared straight. You don't know how often I hear from parents, like, do y'all do the scared straight thing? How can you scare somebody who's not scared? When parents, adults ask me, do you guys participate in a scared straight program? I tell them no, absolutely not. Because we found one, it don't work. You don't scare these cats anymore. They're not scared by going into a jail cell and seeing people yell at them. You know why? Because their friends are in jail and they just get to be there with their homeboys. I mean, if you catch a state charge, you go into state prison. Who's in state prison? A lot of people that were already in my gang. And in there, I'm somebody. On the street, I may not be nobody. So several of them go to prisons, get with their gangs, and there's somebody in there because they run with this violent other group and they take what they want when they want, and they get respect in that group. So you're not scaring somebody with a good time, right? You had a question. I'm sorry.
First of all, thank you very much for it.
Well, thank you. What you doing at 3 a.m.? Oh, I thought you said so you come from the club.
So he said, he was a sheriff deputy. He said, that's a city problem. He said, that's a city problem. And I said, well, what's going on in the city? And he said, the gangs don't have rules. They don't law, you know, he said,
Well,
the problem is the gangs don't have rules.
Okay, well, so when you say gangs and you think of gangs, a lot of us think of your traditional, your Bloods, your GDs, your MS-13s, things like that. We don't necessarily have gangs. We have groups, and this group may be in conflict with this group. This member of this group, the members of this group may be a group because they live here in this area, but this dude may move and go to this area and start dating a girl from this group, and then he joins this group. So kind of getting away from you. Every gang is a group, but not every group is a gang. And we're seeing a lot of that. And your traditional gangs have what you call literature. So they do gangs for as violent as some of them may be, or as far as illegal as some of them may be. They do have rules and regulations, like something traditional gangs. They had rules like you didn't mess with the old lady that worked at the gas station, or we will violate you because she ain't bothering nobody. That was kind of like the gang culture. We'll beef with these guys because they wear a different color and they ain't from our neck of the woods, but we ain't beefing with the candy store lady. Well, when you go from that to groups that don't have literature, that don't have a hierarchy of order, because everybody in the group is 17. Who's leading them? You got the blind leading the blind. So you lose a lot of that. So I'm not saying that gangs are better than groups or groups are better than gangs, but I'm just saying they're different. So when you say gangs, I think a lot of folks take their mind to Bloods, Crips, MS-13, those kind of gangs that wear flags that you can identify with colors. Well, you can't identify these guys with colors no more.
But my understanding is that y'all consider a gang as three.
That's state law.
State.
State law says that if it's 3 or more with the statutes, if it's 3 or more in a criminal enterprise that conduct things, they're by state statute, that's considered a gang. But what we're learning by studying the changes and things is that every gang is not a group, and every group, every gang is a group, but not every group is a gang. Yes. Yes, you, Fred. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. A while ago, you said something about taking 53 guns off, 48 guns. Were those guns ordered to be destroyed? How many were sent to Jeffersonville for resale? That's the first part of the question.
For resale, I'm not sure what any gun that we take goes to the lab in state Indiana, in Indiana State Lab to be looked at and see if it was used in the commission of a crime. We're not reselling those guns, and then they go into evidence if they were used in the commission of a crime.
One time it was a policy, and you could look this up, where any gun that was taken off the street here and that went through the system, after it went through the system, they would send them to a gun dealer in Jeffersonville.
Are you referring to Kiesler's?
Huh?
Are you referring to Kiesler's?
I don't know what his name was, but it was just a Jeffersonville, Indiana, and they would resell. Okay, that's the first part of the question I want to ask you. The second part of the question was, today they had it on TV, and I know we have a lot of double standards here. I'm 73 years old and I see them all. Today they said that it was an individual who went to the airport with guns, the TSA called a gun in his glove. And the law states any time that you bring a gun to an airport, this is a $4,000 fine. This man was given his gun back because he said he forgot to lock it in his truck.
Was he a congressman?
And then somebody report. Now, if that was you or I, do you think they would have let us go out there? Be for real.
No, I'm going to speak on this very candidly, Fred. One, my mom always told me that if you don't know, don't say nothing. That's TSA. That's not the Evansville Police Department. So I can't tell you what went on there with that situation. So I can't speak on the interaction that occurred there with this gentleman and a firearm. That's going to be your federal. That's not going to be Evansville Police Department that handled that run. And to your other point, if there's a found property, like a firearm that's a found property, that has not been used in the commission of a crime, that is not recovered by an individual to come claim the firearm, then yes, we can auction those off.
But it used to be a long time ago. The judge reported those guns destroyed.
Yeah, and that's still the case too. Guns can still be destroyed as well. Excuse me?
I think you don't hear of them doing that anymore.
Well, it still happens, Fred. We just don't hold press conferences and say that we do it. But yeah, some of those guns are destroyed. Some of them are used in auction. If they're not sold off in auction, then yes, they can be destroyed. But as far as the gun thing at the TSA, I really can't speak on that. Whenever I fly armed, I have to get you have to take a training class through the police department, and you have to get federal clearance through TSA to fly armed. I don't know the process of why they would let somebody go with back to a car and put their gun up.
Well,
I really don't know.
They addressed that on TV. That since 9/11,
fast forward to now, they've had a whole lot of people that actually forgets that they got their gun on.
Mhm.
So
I've done that. I've forgotten that I've had a
and,
firearm on me.
So quite naturally, we get kind of back off of that. And they look at the person, look at the character, and he actually, by his behavior and his record and stuff, possibly forgot that. he had
I
a
do
gun
think
on.
you have to look at every situation
Yeah,
on its
that's
face
what they say.
and individually.
They look at the situation. And if somebody with a bad record or traffic, get on the floor, or something like that.
Mhm.
But, they said first timers and stuff, they consider.
Gotcha. So like, again, Fred, that could be the case where if they didn't think that this person was a risk and said, hey, you know what, just take your stuff to the car and then come back. I don't know. That's going to be TSA. I mean, I don't fool with TSA. I don't joke in line. I face forward and do what they tell me to do. I know we've gotten into it. Are there any other questions before I continue? Yes.
That can't be talking about,
The Citizens Academy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you know?
Really? So we put it out on all of our, do you follow the Evansville Police Department on any social media? Are you on any social media, Facebook, anything like that? You should follow the Evansville Police Department. We put out all of our information about things like Coffee with the Cop, things like Citizens Academy, other events that we have, even when we're going to do our Disney trip where we take kids to Disney World. We put all of that stuff on our Facebook page. And if you want to give me your information, I'll get it to Tracy Moore, who runs that. And right now, we're currently in the middle of a Citizens Academy. So right now, you can't join in, but we hold 3 throughout the year. Yeah. And it's a 10-week, I think it's like every third Tuesday. They meet right here in the CK Newsome Center at the foundation classroom back there. And you meet several different parts of our agency. You'll have a SWAT day. You'll have a crime scene day, all those things. So yeah, and we explain what we do, why we do it. We have our public information. Every aspect of our police department is represented in the Citizens Academy. So we can explain to people why we do, why every part of our department works the way it does, and why we do what we do. Mhm. Yeah, our narcotics agency, they do that.
But it's just like, it just seems like it takes forever for something to be done. Even though that they have been talking about multiple times.
Let's say you have a drug house, a known drug house. And I know you're not selling drugs. I'm just use you as an example. So you're running your drug house and people come and visit you a lot. And they leave your home and the people see it, and then the neighbors are saying, it's always somebody at that lady's house. I think they running drugs out of there. But then we check it out, and then we find out that you're a church mom, you always have Bible studies. So people are always coming and going. So sometimes we run into that. Sometimes we run into it to where you do have an actual drug house. Somebody leaves your home, then they have narcotics on them. Where'd you get these narcotics? I don't know. So we know that they got them from there, but we can't, if they don't tell us, they know that they got it from you. It's like, okay, we got suspicion now, but we don't have probable cause to get inside your home.
Yeah.
So now you got to sit and watch. And it takes waiting. And then it takes maybe, unfortunately, a few people coming back there and getting stopped until you get that one that says, yeah, I got it from there. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So it's not just black and white of, oh, we popped somebody that had drugs that was in that house. Now we can get this house. Everybody has their Fourth Amendment protections. And a home is going to have way more Fourth Amendment protection than a vehicle, because a vehicle can drive off. So if I stop a vehicle, the only probable cause I need to get inside that vehicle is if I see something or if I smell something, because of the nature that the vehicle can move. In a home, you have a higher expectation of privacy. So we can't just come in there. We can go knock on the door and be like, hey, y'all got any drugs in here? Y'all gonna let me in the church? Yes. You have a higher expectation of privacy. Yes.
Yeah, but some of them have to do like that.
Yeah.
I have thought the way you think.
You even,
But it's just like.
we have to secure warrants for unattached sheds and things like that because it's on somebody's land. Yeah, if it's on your property and you have a home and a higher expectation of privacy, the legal standard, the legal test, to pass the smell of the legal test, you have to have more than just a reasonable suspicion that something's going on. Now, a tip can lead you to more suspicion, and it can lead you to acts that would develop your probable cause to where you could secure a warrant to get a search, or you could have an exigent circumstance. Let's say you're known drug houses. A lot of times you have drugs associated with violence, right? Let's say there's a shooting and an officer witnesses the shooting. And then the suspect of the shooting runs into this known drug house and the officer witnessed this. Now we have an exigent circumstance to enter this home looking for the suspect of the shooting. Well, while we're in this house looking for the suspect of the shooting, anything that's in plain view, we can see. Oh, I see a baggie wrapper with marijuana in it. Now I have enough evidence to secure this whole entire house and get a search warrant and look for narcotics. Yes, sir.
Can you comment on the school vandalism that's happening right now?
Man, TikTok, man, kids crazy.
Are you about to get it?
What's that, sir?
Are you about to get it handled?
Well, so the EVSC has a police department. They have a chief, Chief Alfred, who's a former Evansville police officer and does an outstanding job in partnering with us. And so they work very closely with us in these school vandalisms. What we're seeing is that these kids are doing these TikTok challenges. It's, that's how kids are. They see challenges. At some point a few years ago, there was a Tide Pod challenge where they were eating Tide Pods. So those things kind of come in waves. The things that we're dependent on as far as the school is if our liaison officers witness it or deal with it, then we'll address it. But in most cases, the EVSC report that to their police chief, and they kind of handle it in-house with their police department. But we partner with them on working with that as well.
And one other question. We hear all the time, if you want the police, call 911. Then last night on TV, it's 911 getting overrun. Too many calls coming to 911. Well, who knows the phone number to call the police?
Well, in that particular case, I believe that gentleman was suffering from
Well, he was doing a lot, but they still are saying they're overwhelmed by people calling 911. So
well, we didn't say that. That may have been the news saying that, but the Evansville Police, I just told you we had 134,000
but
calls
you
for
guys
service.
still say call 911.
Call 911. If you call us, you need us, and we'll show up. So you're not hearing a police officer say we're getting too many 911 calls. I can't control what
That's
message
good.
the media puts out. But in that particular case, that gentleman was doing what we call false reporting, which is calling the police for no good reason
Right.
to show up. And I think he's suffering from some kind of obvious mental reasons, mental health issues, if you've heard that. So his help may be beyond the scope of a police officer. Yes, sir.
I think you said there were 27 shortages right now in the police department with police officers.
We have 17 current vacancies.
17.
Yes, sir.
Are those strictly due to lack of quality of applicants, or is any of it budgetary reasons?
Not budget. We don't have budget's not our problem. We got no money. You looking for a job? Okay, we got no money to pay you. What we've seen is that a lot of our officers, we had a lot of officers, I think in the 90s, like the mid to late 90s, we had a growth in our police department as far as the capacity of officers that we could get. Well, that was nice then, but eventually those officers get old. They start retiring now. And you get back then, applicant pool was going to be 1,000 people or so. Well, now applicant pools are maybe 100, maybe 50. So they're leaving a lot faster than their desire to come. So we're trying to do things. We've opened up a lateral program to where if somebody's from another agency, that's just duct tape though, because that's essentially a cop somewhere else that if he comes over here now, they're short. So that's just duct tape on the problem for us. But I think the biggest hurdle that we need to overcome is that we have to identify that in our profession as a whole, we have not done a very good job traditionally of attracting applicants to our job, to our career path, and not selling it for what it is. We've relied on, my dad was a cop, his dad was a cop, and you've relied on that. But that's no longer happening because cops now are telling their children, don't do this job. Or you see kids, well, I don't want to do what dad did. So you don't get that same traditional police officer, and which is a good thing also. We're getting a lot of officers that are not the traditional police officers that are very smart people. And we can teach them how to be a cop. A lot of times it's harder to teach somebody how to be personable. But if you come in personable, like myself, I came from education. I wasn't a police officer. I'm not the tradition. A lot of people meet me outside of uniform. They're like, you a cop? Like, yeah, I'm a cop. I can learn the Fourth Amendment. I can learn that. But what they can't teach me is to be a communicator. which is what my major is, radio, television, and broadcasting. We can't teach all of that to people. So we are looking for diverse people that offer something different. How do you attract those people when now people are encouraging people not to go to college? Go get a trade, don't get in debt. It's a competitive field. It's a very competitive field. And now you're combating, why would I want to do that job? Y'all on the news every night for this or that. Why would I want to do that? So you're combating those things along with the fact that traditionally you haven't even sold yourself as a business. The movie Top Gun, Tom Cruise. Ever seen it, anybody? Best recruiting tool that the U.S. military ever had. Best recruiting tool the U.S. military ever had. Tom Cruise and those aviator shades, Air Force ain't ever been heard of nobody. Military recruits through movies. You see it all the time. How many good cop movies you see that makes you want to be a cop? They're usually about corrupt cops. They don't make you want to be a cop, right? So we've not done a good job traditionally, even in media, of selling our jobs. So we got to get better at that.
Speaking of not doing a good job.
Thanks, Leonard. Thanks a lot, Leonard.
How many black females do y'all have?
None, Leonard. We currently have 0.
How many applicants?
I can check with Sergeant Snyder on the amount of applicants we had. We just had a minority female who completed all of her training, went through probation, and several days after completing, resigned and moved on. So it just wasn't what she thought it was going to be. So she resigned. I would love to have her back. I tried to do everything to convince her to stay.
That's the same thing Nick Holland said about lawyers, black lawyers.
I can't speak on why no one want to be a black attorney, but as far as being an African-American police officer, the majority of this field, everybody, let me put it like this, everybody that's not a white male is considered a minority in policing. It is a white male dominated profession. So trying to attract those people is a challenge on all aspects. It's an issue trying to attract women of all colors. We've been more successful with white females than black females. Our Latino presence, I think we currently have maybe 1 Latino officer, 1 Native American officer. We're in the double digits of African American numbers. I don't know how many exactly, but I mean, it's a very minuscule number.
Are you still struggling with black officers that actually born in Evansville? 1 or 2, 3 now? 2.
Officers that are from Evansville that are officers, now that is a huge challenge for us. Let me see, I believe Officer Porter's from here, Officer Christian's from here. Eastwood's here. So I think you may be right about that.
Question.
We may have 3 because I'm not from here. I'm from Tennessee. Yeah, y'all can trick us from out of town. Yeah.
The neighborhoods, when they see crime happening or whatever, is it the We Tip line that they need to utilize? I mean, how helpful is that?
The We Tip line is very helpful. And a lot of our narcotics, back to her point, a lot of our narcotics complaints and investigations generate from the We Tip line because a lot of people want to be anonymous. But the We Tip line, 911, we're still encouraging you to do that. But yeah, that's how you can get a hold of us. If you wish to remain anonymous, to 1-800-WE-TIP.
Is that the best way for neighborhoods to kind of prevent crime and everything? Is the We Tip?
I mean, that's one of the ways. You can also contact your crime prevention office. Linda, I'm sure it takes a lot of calls with the CPO's office. Those CPOs are very proactive in getting out and getting problems solved and trying to work with the community and working with our other units and getting that issue to the right unit. If it's a narcotics complaint, to the narcotics. If it's a traffic complaint, to the traffic unit. So yeah, all of them, not one way is better than the other, except with the exception of 911. If it's an obvious emergency, you need somebody there now, that's going to be your 911.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think that policemen and teachers need to be paid $100,000 a year.
Hey, yeah, sign me up.
Teachers they spend more time with our children than anybody else they did. You know, I don't understand why they're not being paid. You guys are for our protection, you know, for safety. And, you know, just like any professional, you're gonna have some bad cops, you're gonna have some good cops, you're gonna have some bad teachers, you're gonna have good teachers. You know, but I think in both of those professions, what people see, what the general public see, is a lot of times those unions protect those bad people, those bad professionals. And that's what, but I think if you had to, if it was paid the amount of money that needed to be paid, in my opinion, you would attract, they won't go to the construction job, they won't go to these other jobs. They'll go to where, the money is, that's what I see. The other thing is, I don't disagree with you because I know you do have these groups, but I think you have some gangs too, you can see.
I don't disagree with that. We do have gangs. I'm just, what's unique to Evansville is the point I was trying to make. And Ted, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on this, is that we don't have those traditional Bloods and Crips.
We do.
As a whole, we do have them though.
Okay.
And a lot of our Bloods and Crips are in these groups.
Right.
And they can bounce from group to group. Whereas if you're just a traditional Blood, you're just staying with your Bloods. Or if you're staying with your Crips, you're staying with your Crips.
But I used to do leadership gang training. And I remember over 15 years ago, I did some training with some people down at the Central Library. And I was telling them, because I saw the graffiti, back then on the service stations, going in the service stations, bathroom, you see it, see it in the alleys or whatever, and there's another guy, we used to just walk right around because we was trying to figure out what we could do, to help. But that back then people was oblivious, we don't have a gang problem, yeah, you do, you might have more, but it's growing.
I will say this, and not to disagree with you, but I think a big part of a huge problem with what we have in Evansville, and not just Evansville, but surrounding areas, is that we do have that tendency to say, because we know of places that are really about that gang life, that when we find our gang members, we tell them they wannabes. And then that gives them the desire to prove that I'll show you I ain't a wannabe. And then it kind of amps them. So I'm not saying that you were doing that, but I just want to piggyback off that point. Yes, sir.
I want to go back to something Leonard said about the diversity of the department, police department. Sandra Matthews and I both were raised in Lincoln Garden Housing Projects, and she can verify this. We knew the police officers, and we knew Uncle Tom, we knew Henry Rendon, we knew Mr. Connie Duke, we knew Cecile. We knew all of those police officers. And truth be told, you get down. You get down, black police officer. Who was so about the black community?
That's true. I've seen it.
I've seen it happen. I've been at, I got called 2 years ago when a young boy got murdered out here at Woodlawn. And we went out there and the police had united front. I think you were out there.
Yeah, I was out there.
And I watched how they cursed out their looks. They didn't do that to me and Brother Ford Moore, because most of those kids out there, I knew the prisons and the jails. But I saw what they said. So how can you do your job? We admired. I looked up to the time. I looked up to those police officers. We were proud. They knew our family. They knew us.
But they live with that.
And they live. That's right. That's right. Sure did. School was, but I've seen police officers just get talked to in my neighborhood. Black police officers, by young black men that, boy, I don't know if I can take that.
It's difficult. The reference that he was just making. There was an incident where a young man was killed, and I think that was one of the ones where it was an accidental. It was an accidental thing, and so our crime scene guys were trying to go and process the scene, but the neighborhood had gathered, and you can't let people contaminate your scene because we don't know if it's an accident, we don't know if it's a homicide, we don't know what it is, but we know that someone's deceased at this point, and it's from an apparent gunshot. So. With the crowd trying to go in and loved ones understandably wanting to see their child, and then you got neighbors saying, let them go in, and we can't. We just simply can't. And so almost all of second shift was dispatched down to Woodline. He was there that day. And we had a line of about 25, 26 police officers out there, and we had to separate the crowd from the scene, the incident scene. And on this line of people, there were 5 black police officers, including myself. The entire crowd was upset, but their focus of being upset was only at the African-American police officers. Only at the African-American police officers. I'm gonna say that again, only at the African-American police officers. 5 of us out of the possible 26, 27 officers. I was Uncle Ruckus, Uncle Tom. I was there. I had so many nieces and nephews by the time they got through with me. But it was bad. And it was bad. And we see that lashing out as a Black police officer.
So my journey as a police officer is gonna be way different than Chief
You see that. So my journey as a police officer is going to be different. The journey of a Black female officer is going to be different from the journey of a white female officer. I don't know what that is. I can't speak on why it's the target. I think it's because on the flip side of that coin, a lot of those same people are super excited for you when there's not enforcement action. Like, man, I'm sure glad we got a Black police officer in our department. Or in my case, man, I'm so glad we got a Black assistant chief now. Okay, that's fine and dandy until you do some enforcement action that I don't like. Now it's like, you're not one of us anymore. So when a Black man becomes a police officer, he kind of loses some of his racial identity in his own community. And that's not just exclusive to us. A lot of Latino officers go through that as well. I've talked to say, yeah, we go through it too. And that's not the same with white police officers. I don't know why that is.
When a Black police officer couldn't arrest a white man, you could hold him behind and call the white police.
Mhm.
So actually, that's how you got you all Black. They were confined to where we.
When you go into the police department, city government, the wall has a picture, a historic picture of, and it's all white, which, again, it says something.
All
And-
white brothers.
What?
You go in you see all white brothers.
And
Yes.
Marvin Guess. Yeah, that's true. And there's nothing to combat what you're saying, because everything you're saying is true. I've actually been approached about that mural before. It's like, how come this mural is like this? And it's like, you know what? This mural was like this when I got here. I don't know why it's like this. But we've had diverse police officers that we can show off, and some that have done a damn good job. Excuse my language. Yes. Fred, you probably deserved it. What you do?
So the neighborhood.
Curfew has been found unconstitutional at the state level. Yes.
But I mean, the police were so much different here in this city. And like, he not coming up in, Baptist style. I came up in New York City, which is on the west side of the Black community. And he had to, and sometimes I believe it's also but it was first basically the same thing. And the people respected the police. They didn't pick out you, they didn't have to, they didn't get you. They didn't use, probable cause, nothing to get in the house. It just came in out the blue. And when they came in, the parents did not hold. Right now, I've heard kids just say everything. If I went to their parents and told them their parents would probably cut me off. That's the way they are. They feel like if they don't uphold their kids, they don't go. And that's just not a bad fact. Our parents did not uphold us. If you go wrong, you go wrong. And my daddy used to tell me that our brother should have downtown. I believe. But I still
The neighborhood has changed, Fred. The neighborhood has changed so much. So I remember getting a whooping from my next door neighbor when I grew up, like in the South with old school parents. Yeah, and you got whooping when you got home. And so that was a little different. Now, just to paint a picture, if you go to most of these neighborhoods, a lot of people don't even know who their neighbor is. Like they don't know them. They see them and they wave, hey, but they don't know them. They're not invited to their homes. They don't come over for dinner. And that's a difference where they all probably ate at each other's houses and spent the night at each other's houses growing up. A lot of that is gone culturally in our country.
Thank you so much.
She
for
looked like she's
coming.
about to give me the time, but I don't
Yeah.
want to deny Ted of this question. Matt,
Okay.
please let
Yeah.
have his one question or comment.
That was, some people with money. Gathered a lot of money together to help even people in the community. Millions of dollars. To help people in the community. I think if that was people who had could do that for police department, put out rewards. If you had like $5,000 for somebody turning in a name and somebody who was arrested and convicted, you find people singing like the Temptation. I mean, you don't see a lot of results, from those murders. That's my opinion.
Well, there are rewards, aren't there, on the WeTip?
We as a police department don't generate revenue, so we don't offer rewards. We don't have rewards. A lot of those come from private citizens. So we don't have a reward system to get people. We depend on witnesses and good old fashioned police work to try to get people and working with our prosecutors. I'm looking for a rich uncle. You show me a rich uncle, I'll take him. Who you got 100,000?
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and Ted, I know you are. And Ted, kudos to you. If I've never got a chance in front of people to say kudos to you for all you do for young folks, and several of you in here, but I know Ted does the mentoring with SEMA, and I haven't gotten a chance to work with you directly yet, but that opportunity can't come soon enough. Hopefully we get a chance to work together and do some things. Because like I said, I got one tank of gas in this thing called life, man. I'm gonna use it. I might as well use it to do something good.
Mhm. Thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
Wonderful job. Yeah, we had quite a few people on the Zoom watching also.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where all the bad comments. So it's really nice to be here. Finish up here.
We're gonna roll. Yeah, we're wrapping it up. Yeah. Okay. Just starting off with announcements. We do need to form a nominating committee. If anyone is interested in being on that committee for the future positions. Does anyone have any other announcements?
Wanted to let, if you are an officer of a neighborhood association or one of the representatives from the neighborhood association, we are going to have special things to do fourth Thursday in October. We will have the girls hopefully back at that time. We would like to distribute them to a representative or officer. So you'll be getting something in the mail. It's not a general membership meeting. It's just for officers of each neighborhood and their representatives.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have another announcement.
Neighborhood that you feel could benefit from Evansville coming into your neighborhood and handing out food boxes. Please look for those emails and phone calls. It's going to take me a while to make all of them. I'm a woman of one. But if you need to reach out to us on our social media platforms or emails and things of that nature.
Thank you so much. I want to talk to you after the meeting. Okay, anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, seconded. Everyone in favor, say aye. Aye. So awkward. So awkward.